welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. This time I'm talking to Jeff Freestone about his stunning intimate landscapes in the high country of southeastern Australia. Jeff lives in the small remote town of Omeo, nestled at the heart of the Victorian High Country. He and his family moved here in 2017 from Melbourne, seeking a quieter life, away from the hustle and bustle to raise their children. What started out as a new hobby quickly turned into something that would soon consume all of Jeff's free time and resulted in a desire to learn as much as he could about the art of photography. His previous love for art and creativity, which had been lost for many years during his time chasing money and status, would eventually return in the form of photography and would ultimately become his new tool for artistic expression. We discuss how he and his family came to make the decision to give up city life for a quieter existence, how the high country has influenced his artistic direction and his passion for intimate forest scenes and much more. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey Jeff, great to have you on the podcast. How are you going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, happy to be here. And great to see, podcast Australian based. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks very much. Really like looking at some of your work. I've seen you on a couple of other podcasts and so forth as well. From my perspective, I put you on my list and very high up my list. It's a long list, by the way, but put you very high on the list because I really wanted to talk to you about, what got you started and how you do what you do. And I think, from what I've heard about your work and seen of your work, I think there's some fascinating stuff to talk about. So why don't we start with how you got started?
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I've always, well, not always, but there's been a camera around for a lot of my life, but never used more than in like a automatic mode. It's probably more just for holidays and that sort of stuff. But I've always felt like I added a bit more to taking photos than just snaps, if you know what I mean. So I always knew there was something there, but I always had like other artistic kind of endeavors I was following, but they'd kind of come and then go and then come and go. And that happened with the photography a little bit. I never really bought a serious camera until 2017. Okay. So that's when I probably started to really take it more seriously and move beyond just the automatic settings and invest a lot more time into it. And the reason for that was that me and my wife, we moved from Melbourne up to the Vic High Country. So that's where I'm living at the moment, in 2017. So we had a tree change, packed up everything and moved up into the High Country. And I wasn't into photography at all then. I still had a camera, but when we moved here, I'd never been to this part of Victoria before. And as soon as I got here, I was like, whoa, I didn't even know it existed. I'd never been to the snow, so I was deprived as a child. I'd never seen like Hotham or anything like that. So I was kind of blown away, to be honest. Like how beautiful it is up here. And my work situation was put on hold for a bit while we moved up here, just changing jobs and so forth. So I had a lot of time to kind of just, I guess, fill that time. So it kind of came together with, just going out and exploring. And yeah, it happened pretty quick that I just invested in a decent camera and started, sitting around on YouTube and watching tutorials and all that sort of stuff. And I think like other creative endeavors or things that I get excited about, my wife thought it was another one that would quickly dissolve into nothing and the camera would just gather dust. But 4 years later, I'm still going at it. So, that's really how I got into it. And I had a lot of time initially to invest into it. So I kind of managed to go from nothing to knowing, not not like a lot, but I had a lot of time, more than I would if I had been working full time then. So, a lot of pretty much just learned everything from YouTube, YouTube's fantastic for that stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're mostly self-taught?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So what drove the move from Melbourne? What was it about and what was it about the high country, I guess, that made you move there, having sort of not really seen it before?
So two questions. I guess I can answer both of them. But so the move was, I'll try and not make it into too much of a long-winded story, but me and my wife had just become a bit, how can I put it? We lost interest in the whole city life. We lived pretty far away, out of Melbourne, so we weren't utilising all the benefits of being in the city, and we were just getting over the city life, the rat race, working, paying bills, and not really doing anything and going anywhere. And we'd been listening to at that time another podcast, actually, The Minimalists. I don't know if you've heard of The Minimalists. They're in the States. Yeah. So their story resonated with us quite a lot, actually. For those listening that don't know, they were two corporate guys that made it to the top, basically, and thought that once they got to the top that they'd have everything that they want, and they had everything like from a monetary value, but they just weren't happy at all with what they were doing. They were just hating it. So they basically quit their jobs and started writing books. I didn't want to write books, but the story resonated with me that, we were working, we were doing jobs that, we kind of liked, but we weren't excited about where we were going. And so we were thinking about that. So that was in our mind brewing. And the high country, my wife had, her grandparents had a holiday house up here. And she came up here a lot as a kid. So I'm in Omeo, if you don't know the area. It's like kind of at the base of the Alpine National Park. So she had a holiday house. She'd come up here, for a long time. And I'd never been up here with her before, and we just decided to do it one year, 2017. We came up, and at the time there was a job going. So she's a primary teacher, and she was on maternity leave with our first. And there was a job going at the school, and she was looking to go back to the school that she was working at in Melbourne, but hated it because it was like a school of, I don't even know, over 1,000 kids. It was pretty full on. So, so this school had a job going, and she said, what do you reckon? Should I go for it? So she did.
What's the population of Omeo total? Because the Omeo school, I imagine, is probably, you'd be lucky to have 100 kids if
there's about, it ranges between like 35 and 40 kids. So it's pretty small. Yeah, it's about 400, I think, the last census check in Omeo. So anyway, she went for the job and came back to Melbourne and went back to work. And I think it was like the week after she called me at work and said she got the job. So she was like, what do you want to do? Should we do it? Yeah, so we took a bit of a punt with that and decided to sell our house and thought we'd take a bit of a punt. And it was something that we had been thinking about, but we just didn't have like a destination or any like solid plans. But this was kind of our out. I guess we kind of saw it. It was like, if we don't take it, we might just get stuck here and never do it. So so the plan was to do it for 12 months. Well, that's what we kind of told our parents. So like, what are you doing? See if it worked, and if it didn't, we'd go back. And we just haven't looked back since.
Cool. So it seems pretty obvious, and obviously from your portfolio and looking at your website and so forth, and your Insta feed, etc., that where you live definitely influences how and what you shoot. I guess how much did that influence your decision to get into photography in the first place? Was it sort of one of the main drivers, or
the area around here?
It's the area and the natural beauty of that alpine region.
I think it was that. It was partly that, but it was also partly at the time that we were thinking of trying to do something else with our lives, and we were, listening to that podcast, a lot of what they talked about was doing something that you really enjoy, and you don't have to, make money from it necessarily. It doesn't have to be your driving force and stuff like that. Yeah. But doing what you love. And I found that, I was in the corporate world for about 8 years before we moved up here, and I quit. And I started to realize that in those 8 years, all the stuff that I'd done before, because I'd always been kind of like artistically minded. I studied graphic design. Yep. I drew a lot as a kid, and even music. I play guitar and stuff like that. But none of that stuff, all that stuff just disappeared once I entered the corporate world, and it was all money, 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 money. And I kind of got caught up in that chasing money kind of scene, and I'd forgotten about all that other stuff. So a part of it was, the landscape, but the other part was I wanted to try and get back into something creative and something I enjoy and try and commit to it. And I kind of didn't expect it to go to where it is now. I didn't know if I'd, continue it, but I just wanted to do it at that point in time and just get a bit more creative. And I've just, managed to enjoy it to the point that, I'm trying to, balance work and photography so I can still keep doing it to the point that I haven't, completely lost it because I'm getting sucked back into work and that sort of stuff. So,
sure.
But over the period from 2017 to now that I've been shooting, I'd say the region is influencing me a lot more probably now and probably for the last couple of years than when I started. Because when I started, it was, the typical stuff that anyone wants to shoot when they're learning, like the seascapes and, the big bright skies and all that sort of stuff. But now it's more, I'm shooting more like intimate stuff and trying to be influenced and show the beauty of the region in a more intimate style.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So I guess what is it about that those intimate, and I've got to say, some of your photographs of it might be as simple as a single tree trunk and just the pattern of the bark on it. What is it about those sorts of things that I guess motivates you creatively?
I think I've been trying to figure that out for myself, trying to articulate what I'm doing. And I think I've spoken to a few people about this. It might sound like a bit corny, but I feel like I can articulate why I'm doing something or what I'm doing best with the photography. It kind of just speaks for itself in a way that, I've always been, not great at articulating things in words, or specifically photography, like the reasoning and stuff like that as to why I'm doing something. I've tried to think about how I could articulate it for on my website or something like that. But I'll do my best to try and explain why I've kind of gone down that path. It's probably more that like when I started and shooting the big grand vistas and all that sort of stuff, I think I only was doing that for a short period of time. I think, Instagram might have a bit to blame there because you just saturated with that sort of imagery. So that might have, made me feel like, I'm not producing anything new. So like I only did that for a short period of time. Then I started to look more into the intimate abstract kind of stuff, probably more intimate scenes than abstract, if anything. I think what draws me to it more is I think it can tell a story or a more specific story than something that's very general or, something that's quite specific, or it can get across a mood, or it can get across a feeling, or it can get across, a season or something like that. I think there's those elements to it that I enjoy, or I see in other people's work, and I'm instantly attracted to a particular scene and, checking out the details of it and that sort of stuff. I'd say another part of it is, there's a few parts. One is I feel like there's just so much more opportunity for photographs with intimate scenes. So if you rock up to a particular area, there's just so much that if you can start, looking at things a bit differently and seeing things a bit differently and looking around for things that aren't the obvious, that sort of stuff, there's a lot more that you can have a go at.
Yeah.
So I think it's partly that. I guess with my family life with kids and so forth, I struggle to get out really early and really late. So, those types of scenes are great. Like, I guess if you're shooting skies and stuff like that, so it means that I can go out during the day and it doesn't matter so much because I'm not shooting the sky, that sort of stuff. So it's partly that as well.
I can understand.
Fit the lifestyle as well. So
sunrises and sunsets get taken up with family time a little bit.
So there's all parts of it, but at the end of the day, I've got to be inspired and enjoy what I'm doing, and that, what I'm doing at the moment, that's what's kind of driving me at the moment. I like finding those small scenes in nature that, the everyday person might just walk past. I guess that's probably, a big part of it is kind of, I wanted to show people certain things that they might think is mundane or they would never notice, and show that there's a lot of, beauty gets thrown around a lot in landscape photography, that term, but there is, the most mundane things can, if they're seen in a certain way, or a certain light or certain, whatever circumstance or conditions, they can be quite appealing as, art or as a photograph.
Yeah. So do you find yourself going into the fields with the concept of what you're looking for, or do you find yourself doing more opportunistic shooting and it's just what you come across at the time? And I guess I'm talking about that in the difference between those grand vista sort of shots that one would take, and you kind of would go there deliberately to take that, whereas the intimate stuff you might probably tend towards opportunism. Is that how you work, or do you do it the other way around? You're actually going out there with intent, looking for lichens on rocks, for example, and saying that's the concept that I'm after, and that's what you go looking for.
I'd probably say, like, now pretty much most of the shoots that I go on, they're pretty much unplanned. I won't have anything in mind apart from, like, I don't know if you've noticed that I've got a bit of a snow gum collection going. So I'll know that I'll go up and I'll want to shoot snow gums because the conditions are right. But that's as far as it goes. So I don't, I might know the area that I'm going to. I'll go out if the conditions are right. Like, so for shooting those scenes that I've shot, I've had to have the right conditions. I've had to have fog. I've had to have, no direct light coming in. It's got to be overcast and that sort of stuff. So, like, I'll go when the conditions are right, but I'm not usually going out with a particular scene in mind. A lot of it is just walking around, trying to see what captures my eye. And I'd probably say most of the images that I really like myself are ones where I haven't planned them, to be honest. They're usually ones that I've come across and, this is great, just on a particular outing with no particular idea in mind of what I want to shoot.
Yeah. I guess for people that don't know the area, how would you sort of describe what it is that the area that you're going into? Because, I know that we've got some international listeners that, if you said, I'm from Omeo, they'd go, where's that? They'd know Melbourne, they'd know Sydney and whatever, but, so whereabouts is it first off? And I guess then a bit of a description about what the region's like.
Yeah, so it's northeast Victoria, so it's 5 hours north of Melbourne, and Omeo is a small country town, like I said before, but at the base of, like, the Alpine National Park. So pretty much most of, I do shoot quite, locally. So it's just like a typical Australian, country landscape, I guess. I'm not actually in, like, the Alpine region, but most of the time I'm shooting up in the Alpine, so it's a pretty rugged landscape. Narrowing it down again, most of the time I'm shooting in winter or autumn. Autumn's probably more around, like, the country. How can I say, like, the country feel, like Australian countryside. Countryside's probably what I'm trying to go for.
The autumn colours of...
So around here, the autumn really, it's pretty phenomenal around here. The colours are pretty magic. But most of the other type of shooting that I do is up in the Alpine, so real rugged, dense forest that I'm going into. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
That's the
mostly,
question.
yeah, pretty much. It's mostly eucalypt forest and so forth. But you do get annual snow in that region. I guess there's not many years that you wouldn't get snow, above a certain elevation.
Yep.
I mean, usually, almost every year there's snow above 1,000 meters elevation.
Yeah. Yep.
So are you going above the tree line, or are you sort of staying in amongst the trees and that sort of thing, or?
So we're at about 700 meters. So we just missed the snow. Usually like 20 years ago, this place would be covered. But the snow's starting to die off a lot more now. But yeah, so we're just at the base of it. So I think Mount Hotham's about 1,800. But yeah, so I'm going right into, anywhere from, 1,000 meters all the way up. And generally I'll be going right to the top because that's where the snow's the densest. And that's usually what I'm looking for in those types of winter scenes. Before COVID, I was probably spending most of my shooting time in the snow. It might show that on my portfolio, but I probably spend most of the time there. Summer, I don't shoot too much, but it's usually winter and autumn, a bit of spring, but yeah, mostly winter and autumn. The seasons around here are quite extreme, the changes compared to living in Melbourne. You wouldn't really notice it so much, but here you've got, I don't know if you know Bright over the other side of the mountain.
I know Bright, yep.
Yeah, there's just, I've never seen anything like it. Like the colours, like obviously in the States and stuff, it's a bit different, but in Australia, it's phenomenal. The colours over there are just insane in autumn. So, that's probably about 2 hours from me. So, but I haven't been able to get over there for a few years because of COVID.
How's that impacted how you've worked? What's lockdown and the COVID experience been like for a small town like Omeo and you in particular?
Just in general, not photography related.
Yeah, well, in general and or photography.
Yeah. Well, photography. Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot. I've been able to shoot locally, which is still pretty good compared to most people living in the city or something. But small town wise, we've kind of said that to a few people, like compared to living in the city, like most of my family is still in Melbourne. We probably haven't experienced like a proper lockdown compared to in the city because 90% of the people that live in this town are on farms. So, the kids can really just run around wherever they like.
Social isolation by life.
Yeah. So, so it's, they still followed all the restrictions and everything and still had to, lock down when Country Victoria was in lockdown. But, where we are, we're pretty isolated. I think we're one of the most isolated towns in Victoria. So like the COVID issue wasn't too much of a concern, I guess, for the town or for it getting here, other than just when Melbourne was let out. But I don't think much of the town was affected apart from the shops and stuff like that rely on people coming up from Melbourne and stuff like that. But most of the people that are around here, they're farmers, their work just kept going. So the town, I don't think was nearly impacted, or wasn't impacted nearly as much as what it is for like, a lot of the towns surrounding Melbourne and so forth.
Okay, cool. So I guess getting back to the photography sort of thing, what's your process or workflow when you're out in the field? Is there anything that you might be doing that others might not or might find different?
That's a good question. I guess the one thing that I appreciate up here is that pretty much most of the places that I go to, and when I go to them, there's rarely anyone around. I rarely see someone. So I'm pretty much always on my own. I don't have any photography friends that live up here, so I don't go out with anyone unless someone comes up from Melbourne. But yes, I'm always on my own. So I find that I can get into, I think there's a number of different things that people talk about, flow states and all that sort of stuff. But I'm able to get myself, completely focused on what I'm doing. So, you know, I can manage to, you know, I'm still work on that. It's not something I'm consciously doing, but I find that I produce probably the best work when I'm just 100% engaged in what I'm doing. So having no distractions, you know, even where I'm going, there's no roads or anything like that. So I don't hear any traffic or anything like that. So I'm completely engaged in what I'm doing. And I can forget about everything else that's going on. That's one thing that I love about photography for me. I don't know if I've said it in another podcast or written on my website, but it's kind of meditative for me in a specific kind of way. So yeah, sometimes if I haven't been out for a while, I'll kind of crave it more for the meditative side of things rather than, you know, creating images sometimes, probably just because of the lifestyle, you know, 3 young kids and work and stuff like that. So sometimes I'll crave it just to get out. So yeah, so I'd probably say that's probably like the main thing for me. Like I don't really have, I try not to create things that I'll do or processes or anything like that from, you know, out in the field. Processing is probably a bit different. Like I'll have a stock sound where I'll probably try and do things or deviate outside of, you know, a particular formula that I might follow. But when I'm out in the field, it's really just trying to, get into that state of engaging with the landscape, if that makes sense. Now, I think that's important when you're shooting things like intimate scenes and abstract scenes is trying to, I guess, free your mind in a way. Free your mind from certain expectations and, you know, what you should be shooting. And that's something I've probably tried to work on a bit, particularly with social media. It's easy to go out and try and find things that, even if you don't consciously think about it, you can easily get swayed into shooting something that people might like as opposed to something that you're interested in. And again, I'll say probably that's another benefit I have is where I live, I don't have iconic places. There's nothing really iconic up here. Like the whole place is iconic, but there's no like iconic places for me to shoot. So I've kind of had to...
no opera houses or harbour bridges or...
No, not really. No. So there's nothing really like that. Like I don't even really have waterfalls or anything like that. So there's nothing... So I kind of was forced in a way to try and find things or, you know, make things myself in a sense, which is, you know, I think has been good in a way. So it made me think a bit more about what I'm doing rather than just going to certain places and just pointing the camera and shooting.
Definitely, yeah. Oh, and I got to say, I think you've done an amazing job of showing what the environment up there is like. I guess... talking about that environment, how important is the environmental aspects of, you know, and have you, I know you've only been doing it for 4 or 5 years there, but have you noticed environmental changes in that time?
As in, like, results from social media and that sort of stuff, and people treading more because of
social media or even climate change. I mean, there's a lot of things that can influence the environment. Social media is one of them. As you said, you're probably not going to be too crowded out because there's no iconic location.
Not really. No. I don't think the area's really been hit with anything, and like I don't have issues sharing locations. I don't. The places that I go to, you know, I'm walking to a place that's probably hard to, you know, describe where it specifically is if someone wanted to know where a specific snow gum was or something. So I just generalize where I'm going. But I haven't really seen on the left that.
Isn't going to cut it.
I'll mark it for you. But not really. Environmental, the only thing probably is like, with the bushfires. You know, bushfires ripped through this area 2 years ago, was it? 2019. So that was pretty devastating, seeing it afterwards. But environmentally, not really. Just getting to know the snow seasons now, like from speaking to a lot of people around here, they are seeing more years now with less snow than what there was, say, 5-10 years ago.
Seasons as well.
Pretty much, the first... was it 2020 that COVID? That snow season was one of the worst they've had in a long time, and it was probably the best time to have it because no one could come up here. But it was pretty bad. There was not much snow at all. So, Yeah, so that's probably the only thing is, yes, seeing that or hearing that the snow seasons aren't at all what they were like when some of the guys here, my age, were growing up here. Completely different.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned social media, so I guess where do you stand on social media's place in terms of the photography industry and so forth? I mean, obviously, it's important for getting your work known and getting it seen, but beyond that, where do you see it going?
I guess I'll just preface it with, this is just my opinion and those sorts of things. So everyone's got their own reasons and opinions on things.
That's why we're here, to talk about what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I guess it's you got to look at things from different a number of different angles. Like, for one, starting up photography in a time when there is social media, that, like, I do sometimes think that the audience that I have, and like I've got nowhere near an audience like a lot of photographers out there that have massive audiences, well-known photographers. But even just my audience of, I don't even know, like 2,000 people or 1,500 people on Instagram, before Instagram and social media, I wouldn't have had probably an audience. So, and that's probably driven me to still keep at it, as well as, obviously everyone loves getting, people complimenting your work and that sort of stuff. So there has been, that aspect of it. I have met, a lot of people, even if I haven't actually met them physically or in person, that I would never have met outside of photography. So it's been really great for that. But there's a lot of negatives to it as well. So, and I won't go into them. But I think that, just everyone knows that, the downsides of social media, spending so much time on there and comparing yourself to someone that has 100,000 followers, all that sort of stuff. And I'm kind of past that now.
I mean, the way I've looked at it is, everybody's on their own journey and everybody's at whatever place they're at. And if you're sitting there comparing yourself against somebody that, say, got into Instagram, a year or so into when it started, and you started, say, 5 or 6 years later, you're never going to be in that same space, So
no,
pardon me.
And everyone kind of gets into it for different reasons as well. So there's a whole group of people that will shoot for likes, and that's fine. People will do crazy things with skies and all that sort of stuff, and just to get the likes, and they'll have big followings and stuff like that. And everyone at some point gets to that crossroad, I guess, and thinks, which way do I want to go? You can get pulled back to one side very, very easily. So I consciously made an effort to I don't know when it was, maybe 2 years ago, to just keep reminding myself to be shooting stuff for myself, and and I don't think it was that big of a time frame. Like, I think I got to a point where I was like, I realized that it's just social media, it's likes, it's followers, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't mean a great deal to me in terms of, that aspect of it. I don't want to say stuff that might upset viewers or anything.
That's fine. I mean, the important thing, I think, for a lot of people is that you've got to remember why you started taking photos.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. There may be some people that got influenced and decided to take it up because of Instagram or because of Twitter or whatever, But if you're doing it, do it for yourself. Do it for your own pleasure. Do it for your own mental health, not for for all that sort of thing. Because that stuff, ultimately isn't that fulfilling. It's a bit like what you were talking about earlier with chasing the dollar.
Yeah.
You can end up at the top of your field and everything and still be unhappy,
Yeah. So, and that's right. And I think like you said, people get into it for different reasons, and I don't I'm not going to say someone's in it for the wrong reason. If they're in it for, the popularity and that sort of stuff, then that's fine. You don't know what their situations are. Yeah. But for me, I got into it probably more so from the creative side.
Sure.
Well, not the creative side, but doing something for myself. And yeah, I kind of just wanted to stick to that. I guess I've found that the times that I'm not enjoying stuff is when I'm maybe spending too much time on social media. So trying to have breaks from it and stuff like that, I've found in the past, not only do I find things a bit more fulfilling and I've got more time, but I've also found I can get a bit more creative as well if I have breaks and those sorts of things from social media. So, it's great for certain things, like especially even like inspiration.
Absolutely, yeah.
Without like Instagram and even like Twitter now, Facebook to an extent, you've just got so much access to so many different photographers, which before, like, I don't even know how you would have found them, to be honest.
Well, the truth is nobody did unless they attended a hell of a lot of photography exhibitions.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. So it has done a great deal for, photography and stuff like that. And I think it's helped a lot of people get to, places where they're doing it full time and that sort of stuff. And that's the other aspect to it as well. I don't do this full time. So if I was doing it full time, I think I'd have to have more of a social media presence and those sorts of things. So, that's another aspect of it that, people doing it full time, they've got to be promoting workshops or promoting their work and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
So you mentioned, the inspirational, like, I guess, and aspirational stuff, and there's quite a lot of photographers out there, but who's your go-to person when you're sort of seeking to extend yourself?
To be honest, it probably changes. It changes more and more these days.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, like, moving into the intimate, like when I moved to more intimate scenes and found a bit more of a direction, my inspirations were Alex Noriega's always been there for me. I love his work. I love, I've listened to his, him talk and stuff like that. I just love his, what is it? That's what I'm looking for. How he just does photography and everything about it and so forth. So his images, his intimate scenes and so forth. Beautiful work. Sarah Marino, Jennifer Wemwick, Eric Bennett. Probably I guess I discovered those photographers obviously through Instagram, but a lot more of the intimate scenes that they were doing was probably opened my eyes to a lot of that stuff. But yeah, in terms of now, I still love their work, but I'm constantly looking for different things. So at the moment, I'm experimenting with like ICM, for example, playing around with that. So I'm looking at a lot of people that are doing that at the moment. And I'm enjoying a lot of that work, a lot of the impressionistic kind of photography work. And, will I release anything of that? I don't know. I'm just playing around with that, having a bit of fun. So, yeah, I don't know. In terms of who's inspiring me at the moment,
okay.
I've heard of Elvis Daly, Dallie. Very abstract, intimate work. He's someone that I'm enjoying at the moment. But people that I probably go back to are probably, like I said, the Alex Noriega, Sarah Marino, Ron Coscaroso.
What sort of things are you doing to achieve consistency in your work in terms of the look of a Jeff Freestone piece?
Yeah, I did. I went through it again. That was another phase of what's my look? Do I have a look? I've got to try and find a style, all that sort of stuff. And I think a lot of people go through that phase. And I found myself overthinking it, And then I started reading about people saying that will just come to you naturally. So I thought, that sounds good. I'll just stop thinking about it, and hopefully it just comes. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't even know if I have really a look or a style. I think maybe that the only thing that might attribute to that is maybe the conditions that I go out in.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to go out in.
From my perspective, looking at your work, I think there is a fair amount of consistency, and it's not, just it's an intimate, Gumtree bark scene, or that sort of thing. There's obviously consistencies because they're similar subject matter.
Yeah,
but when I look at your work, the contrasts are quite similar. And the way that you use colour, I think, is also, fairly consistent, right? I mean, there are obviously pieces where, the colours are going to be completely different because that's just what you've shot. But for me, I see quite a lot of consistency in your work. So
okay, that's good. I hope. Maybe the processing, I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm not thinking about it. Maybe. So I don't go back to other images and go, I've got to see if I can make it fit to this or something like that. Maybe it's just, how I like an image to look. So, like contrast, for example, I'll try and not make scenes too contrasty. I am influenced, I wouldn't say by specific painters, but I do like a bit of more of a painterly look that might come into it a bit. So like a softer image, a softer look than real in your face kind of colors and that sort of stuff. So if something's looking a bit too contrasted, I might even bring that contrast down. So I'm probably trying to create a scene that's, in terms of contrast and colors, quite well balanced, but a bit of softness to it as well. Nothing that's too punching you in the face.
Yep.
So I guess the scenes that I'm shooting are a bit like that too. I hope that people spend a bit more time with my images than, just getting a smack in the face, that sort of, sort of thing.
Definitely, some of those foggy forest scenes, they've definitely got that serenity, sort of around them that they really invite you to sit and take it in. And, it's not like, a lot of the stuff you see on Insta, that looks good, flick. That looks good, flick. They're not that sort of image. They're one that I think, certainly should be blown up into a, good sized print hung on a wall. And, Speaking of which, do you print much of your work? And, I mean, obviously you sell prints through your website and so forth, but do you print for your own use and home?
I do print. I don't print for myself, and my wife keeps asking. We've just moved into a new place, and she wants to
decorate
put a few up on the wall. So, I might be doing that soon. But I do enjoy printing, and I do want to get my own printer one day because I'd love to just take it up as something else to do, because it sounds like, from what I've heard, is that when you get into printing yourself, it's like it's not just printing, you're getting into a whole new, it's like another whole hobby, I guess. Learning all the aspects of it.
It's at a cost too, if you...
Well, that's what's holding me back. So at the moment. I do love the idea of that, and I do shoot my images for print, basically. So at some point, I do want to be printing my images, and they'll be there forever. So the way I'm shooting and processing is the ultimate goal is for them to be printed. And if someone wants to buy them now, then they're there. But for myself, for printing, I definitely shoot them to be more than just, being online or something like that. I do want to be able to print them at some point.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So what's the most notable experience you've had while out in the field?
Notable experience.
It's all right. Take your time, because anything we say here can be cut out. So.
Trying to think if there's any stories. I don't think there are any stories. Probably the best
You're not going
experience
to
I've
come
had.
across a bear or anything like that.
No, I've come across a few snakes.
Yeah.
Probably the ones that that I've enjoyed that have been, you really feel like you're alive is when you're up on the top of Mount Hotham during winter in a massive snowstorm. So those sorts of experiences are probably what keep me going back every winter. I love being out in conditions that aren't just the regular conditions. And that's probably what I'm lucky, where I live, because we do have that. And it's not too far for me to go. Like yesterday, I was actually up at Falls Creek for most of the day, and the whole place was just covered in fog from 7 in the morning when I got there till about 2:30 until I left. So the whole place was just complete thick fog, and it was great for snow cones because they're just wet and saturated. And it's just such an eerie feeling. No one up there. There is absolutely no one up there at the moment. So it's, there's something about that I just absolutely love. I just, I wish I had more time. I had, was it like 8 hours up there or something? I had to get back. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've had anything that's like, no specific experience, but in general, that's the stuff that I keep going back for. I love those. I love the feel of it when I'm out there. And a lot of people talk about that with photography. It's not just the end result. It's a lot of it's about experiencing it and that sort of stuff. I don't know. And again, not to put anyone's work down that's doing this sort of stuff, but I think that's what drives me to that sort of stuff. It's being in those conditions is I don't know if I'd get that same feeling just shooting waterfalls and seascapes and that sort of stuff because I've experienced that, being in those kind of conditions and just the loneliness of being there isolated on your own. You can't see, a few feet in front of you because of the dense fog, or in a snowstorm, the challenges that you have trying to photograph, all that sort of stuff kind of drives me to produce something, I guess. Yeah.
Fantastic. Have you ever hit a creative wall, and how did you handle that?
Yep. So that happens a couple of times a year, probably. The first time it happened to me, I really struggled with it, like really bad. Partly, I think, probably because of social media at the time, I was, trying to put out, a lot of work, or, for me, I'm trying to put out a lot of work, and I think it lasted maybe about 4 weeks, and I just really struggled with the idea of. A lot of it was just about my own work. I didn't like what I was doing, and I didn't feel like I had any direction or anything. And I think that, for listeners, it's probably a common thing that they go through and experience that maybe before. But yeah, for me, I really struggled with the first time. So I reached out just to a few pros or people that I looked up to, I guess. Again, another benefit of Instagram, those sorts of things, getting instant contact back from someone. So yeah, it was just reached out to a few people and gave me a few ideas of what to do. And yeah, just I guess maybe chatting with a couple of people kind of helped. But I found the best way just to get through it is to not force it. And that's what I do now. So during COVID, I had, quite a long creative block, or I just didn't have any desire to go out. I had a backlog of photos to edit, and I didn't feel like doing that. So yeah, I just enjoyed time at home with the kids and just other stuff that goes on in life. And it's only just started to come back, actually. So I've just started to get back into it. So yeah, I've just found that forcing it is just leads to, I don't know, either lasting longer or producing work that you just don't like. So I just kind of let it go naturally. But I don't know. I've tried a few things. Some things work, sometimes some things don't work. People have suggested trying to go out and shoot things that you would never shoot. So, trying a different genre or trying a different lens, or, trying some macro if you've never done that before. Just trying something that might get the creative juices going because you've never done it before. Reading some books, or just doing something that's completely non-photography related. But yeah, I think just letting it come back naturally I've found is the best way.
Yeah, great. What do you think you've learned about the world through photography?
Oh, I haven't travelled much, so I couldn't say the world, but I've probably learned a lot more about nature and having a lot more of an appreciation for it, where I've never really noticed it before, noticed things in nature, finding things that I can appreciate a lot more than I never had before. So like, appreciating the small things in life and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I guess photography's allowed me to get out and explore things a lot more and those sorts of things as well. But yeah, in terms of what has it taught me, it's probably, just it's probably just the stock standard answer, being more respectful towards nature and that sort of stuff. But it is like that. If you're photographing things that you love and appreciate, you want it to be respected, and so it can be there for as long as for more generations, and seeing stuff around the world, places that are getting trampled and that sort of stuff because of Instagram is pushing a lot more people to go to those real popular places. Like, it is a shame, but I think it's kind of inevitable with the way that the world's going with technology and that sort of stuff. So it is hard to try and stop that from happening. But there's a lot of people out there that are advocates for that, nature first and that sort of stuff, are trying to get the word out and promote that amongst at least the photography community as well, that have like big followings, which is, it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. What's the best thing about being a photographer?
Best thing.
Or I guess another way of asking that, what's the thing you enjoy most about being a photographer?
I think it's, like I said before, I've had like other artistic and creative kind of endeavors. I think photography, it's definitely, I've explored a lot more creatively and I'm gone a lot more deeper than anything I've done before. So maybe it's taught me a bit about myself, going a lot deeper with certain things. I think it's also the stage in my life where I'm at as well. I think if I had tried to take it up when I was a lot younger, I don't think I would have explored it a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think it came at the right time. Does that make sense? Like, I think it came at the right time where I'm more mature in life and stuff like that. So I was open to the things that it is kind of taking me towards, if that makes sense. But I think I love all the artistic elements to it that it's bringing. It's what I set out to do in 2017 is probably I've achieved that, and I wanted to start doing something or enjoying something creatively and not letting that just go by the wayside for the sake of money and that sort of stuff. So I've achieved that, but I think I've taken it further than what I expected.
Yeah. Okay. What's the thing you like least about being a photographer?
Maybe the obsession. If that makes sense. I don't know. How can I explain that? I guess getting obsessed with certain things or feeling the need of, I've got to go out, I've got to create, that sort of stuff. I do like the just taking things quite naturally, and that's the approach I try and have when I go out and photograph. But there's a lot of hesitancy of, when like the season comes around, like winter or something like that, I've got to get out, I've got to shoot, and can create tensions at home and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's answered the question the best as possible, but I wouldn't say social media, because there are good things about it and you can choose to step away from it. So no, I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I don't really think of anything bad about it, but So
what do you like to do when you're not out shooting and not processing?
Well, it's just kids and work, so without it sounding like
no, that's fine,
drudgery. But
it is what it is.
But we moved up here as well to get away from that, like that lifestyle where I was just working and never seeing. Actually, we had two and moved up here. We've got three now, and I was going through, that corporate world of just working long hours, traveling for long hours, never seeing the kids, and we kind of just wanted to make a bit of a change. My life was a bit the same, so I'm getting to spend a lot more time with the kids, which I'm enjoying. So I do enjoy that. So yeah, and just enjoying living in a town of 400 people. The quiet life.
It sounds idyllic.
Yeah, it's great. Kind of suits the photography kind of hobby as well.
Definitely. So if you weren't a photographer, what would you be? Would you go back to the corporate world? If somebody came along and said, "Sorry, Jeff, you're not allowed to take any more photos. You can't. I'm confiscating your camera." What would
No, I don't. No, yeah, it's not all about that. Yeah, I just wouldn't. Yeah, no, I can't imagine go back to that working life. I'd probably try and find something else creative.
Yeah, fair enough.
I kind of feel like I used to paint a bit as well. Like when I was younger, nothing at all spectacular, far from it. I feel like that might be the next thing that I might want to try and do. Yeah, I really like the idea of painting and just sitting down. I don't know. I think when I've got more time, maybe when the kids are grown up or something, photography is great that you can produce things and you can do it relatively quick compared to, producing a painting or something like that. That's something you really got to commit to long term. I think it seems like. So like photography, even though, I don't rush out and take photos really quick, like sometimes it can be spur of the moment, but you can produce something, relatively quick and it can still be quite amazing. So, it's good from that aspect as well, like a time limited amount of time that I have. that kind of helps as well. But I don't know, either something artistic or something, I don't know, fitness related or something.
Fair enough. Are there any photographers out there that you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Australian based?
Doesn't matter. It's landscape photography world, so I'll
okay.
Talking to a guy from Spain on Sunday, so
Oh, really? Okay. I wish you would have asked me that beforehand. I could have looked it up.
Sorry.
Well, I could have thought about it. I'm trying to think. Trying to think of some. I heard you had Ben Mays on.
Yeah, Ben Mays.
Ben Mays. Yep. Good mate of his. Can I come back to you?
Yeah, that's fine.
I might have to come back to you. Yeah, I can't think of any specific at the moment.
Not a problem. I've got one more question, and everybody that listens knows this is the most important question that I've got. Oh, yeah. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
My wife will only, I shouldn't say will only, but her favourite, and she's obsessed with Hawaiian pizza. Nothing else competes with it. So I've kind of been forced into it, but I don't mind pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's a good question. It's an important question.
Absolutely. We've got to get to the bottom of the big questions in life.
Do you think it should be on pizza?
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, if it's there, I won't take it off. If it's not there, it doesn't bother me. So.
Anchovies shouldn't be on a pizza.
Yeah. I used to go along with that, but I've sort of come over to the dark side on the anchovy.
Oh, have you? Okay, all right. I'll make sure I don't share a pizza with you, man.
Yeah, fair enough. I just don't like too much of it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it gets a bit too fishy.
That's it. Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Jeff. I've really enjoyed catching up with you, and it's really been fascinating hearing about how you do what you do. Where can people find you and your work?
So on Instagram, Facebook, or probably best viewed on my website, which is, what is it? It's terrible. freestonephotography.com.
Fair enough.
You can go view it on there.
No worries. Thanks for that. I'll include links in the show notes for the podcast as well.
Yep, sure thing. No worries. Oh, it's been great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com and on YouTube. And I'm also on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.